All right. Looks like we're live. I'll give it a few minutes for people to pop in. But today I'm pretty much just going to be discussing success habits of an email marketer, routines. I'm going to go at a tactical level. I'm going to go into the day to day type of stuff, kind of what you need to think about as you kind of execute throughout the days, throughout the week, but then also into the nitty gritty, like the actual writing aspect of things. And then obviously, we'll have some time set aside for live stream Q&A. So if you have any questions, go ahead and pop them in the chat. Feel free to ask whatever it is that you want. But right now, I'm just going to free flow. And as I see them in the chat, I'll go ahead and attend to them. But first things first, I want to start at a tactical level. Okay. Typically, hey, man, good to have you. Yeah, if at any point anyone's got questions, um, feel free to drop them in the chat. But right now, I'm just going to talk at a tactical level, and then we're going to zoom out and we're going to talk about what it legitimately takes, just from a mindset perspective, and then how to kind of breed that creative aspect of things so that you can continue to execute, not get burned out, not get overwhelmed, and just take on a bunch of work and get paid a lot for it and enjoy your life, really. So, from a tactical perspective, when it comes to email marketing, being an email marketer, right? Like, first of all, let's cover that. What does it mean to be an email marketer? It means to be someone who's providing a service of writing emails, strategizing how we send those emails in order to get some sales coming through the email channel, whether it be for yourself or a client, whatever it is, right? So this could be for e-commerce businesses, it can be for coaches and consultants, it can be for local businesses, it can be for yourself. Selling an info product, of course, doesn't matter what it is. Email literally works for everything. And if you don't believe me, prove it for yourself, right? Gain your proof of concept. Everyone's done it. And there are good ways to do it and there are bad ways to do it, right? So regardless, tactic wise, when you're executing, when you're writing emails on a daily basis, you want to have standard procedures, right? You want to have some SOPs in place. This is what's going to save you time. So right now I'm going to talk a lot from the perspective of just serving clients, because a lot of people on my channel, a lot of people that are watching this video, they're trying to become a service provider, right? So when you're writing for a client, whether it be a coach or consultant that's selling an info product, a mentorship program, whether it be direct to consumer brands, consumer package brands, those are going to require you, if you want to be an elite level email marketer, it's going to require you to have some sort of standard system that you can go ahead and execute whenever you bring on a new client, right? You have a proven plan for profit right off the bat that you can rely on time and again, so that you're not like getting a new client each time and just leaving that up for guesswork, right? So when it comes to e-commerce businesses, DTC brands specifically, you're going to want to have your welcome flow, the cart abandoned, the checkout abandoned. You're going to want to have browse abandoned, post purchase, the birthday flows, anniversary flows, things of that nature, right? All these different automations that you can immediately plug and play, right? And this kind of coincides with, your execution at a tactical level, is that it becomes easier if, when you're starting out, working with the same type of clients in the same type of industry, because you're going to gain a much deeper understanding of that industry. You're going to gain a much deeper understanding of the market, the psychographics behind, the people that you're writing for, and what makes them tick. You're going to gain a deeper understanding of the products and the offerings that your clients have. So executing that way, it makes your life a million times easier. So now you get a new client paying you 5 grand a month, 10 grand a month, and you come in here, what used to take you when you started out, what used to take you maybe 40 hours for like your first time ever, it's going to take you 5 hours, right? And that's the difference between having SOPs and not, really. So that's the number one thing I would say that trips a lot of people up, and they don't spend a lot of time on. The next thing is education, right? So like, you want to consistently educate yourself. It doesn't matter what level you're at. Things develop, things evolve. You want to be keeping your thumb on the pulse of things, right? Within this email world, within the copywriting world, within the marketing world, understanding pop culture trends, Understanding all these different things. And of course, it's going to be contextual, and you're going to have that contextual application for your clients, for the industry they're in, for the products you're selling through email. But you do want to keep your thumb on the pulse of these things, because this is what can breed a different level of creativity that hasn't yet been produced, that could launch you into the stratosphere and just generate, unworldly results, just because of the fact that you did something that's so unique, right? And it allows you to stay a step ahead. It allows you to have this creative sandbox and then go ahead and just like brainstorm and get creative and do all these different things. So education falls into that wheelhouse. It's educating yourself on, high level things that have been proven, and then educating yourself on things through reflection and having a creative sandbox on things that maybe haven't been done, but you have ideas, or you see someone else has had idea, but they maybe haven't executed it well, or maybe you saw an execution that you feel like you could do 10 times better. You can do it a little bit differently. That is going to fall into the wheelhouse of education, where when you actually implement that and you take the time to reflect and you take the time to practice these things and theorize and then actually put that into practice, you're going to develop things that are unique to you. And so this is very powerful, especially when you're starting out as an email marketer, a copywriter, whatever it is, as a service provider serving clients in the marketing space. This will give you a massive edge, because when you play a lot in this creative sandbox, and when something sticks and you've tested things and you find something that sticks and no one has really done it, it's unique to you, that is your edge, right? When there's people that come up with welcome flows that have never been done before, and then it works extremely well in terms of generating sales, building authentic relationships, growing the brand, growing the list, and all that. There's things that haven't been done that produce really good results, and then everyone wants that. And so now what happens if you're getting all the demand for that? Well, you get to increase your prices, right? So these are things that you have to spend some time on. And I highly recommend you spend time on this when you're starting out, because this is what's going to give you an edge. And the more time you spend on this, the more opportunities you're going to create for yourself, and the more luck you're actually going to generate for yourself. All right. So there's that. Something else that a lot of people have asked, a lot of people that have helped in the past, that they've started out or they've been in the space a little bit, but they haven't really, cemented themselves in the space, or generated a good enough income to stabilize this as a career for themselves. One of the biggest things that I always tell people is there's a lot of variables within that contribute to the equation of success when you're serving a client, right? The more variables you control, the greater the odds you have of generating that success if you know what you're doing, right? Let me put it into perspective. If you're a copywriter and you're writing copy for an email, right? Let's say an email launch. You're writing the copy. If you cannot control the strategy, you're just the guy writing the words, you're writing the emails, but you don't control the strategy, the odds of success are not going to be as high as to compared if you were to compare it to you controlling the strategy, developing the strategy that you know can work, and controlling the variable of the copy. Okay. And then on top of that, it's like, as an email marketer, if all you're doing is the email marketing, but you can't control the acquisition channel, you have zero control of the variable of generating traffic to the site, generating cold traffic to the site through paid advertising or anything like that, whether because you don't know about it, or you don't know how to execute, or they have that, in-house with someone else handling it, the odds of success are not going to be as high when you compare it to you actually controlling that variable. So that's really important. So I always encourage people, it's like, yes, you're focusing on this one thing, whether it be copywriting, email marketing as a whole, the email channel, but on the side, you should start to understand, and this is it's going to tie into what I'm about to say. You should understand the entire system that you as a service provider are contributing to. I appreciate that, Harrison. Um, I'll definitely touch on those. So finishing this thought, when you understand the entire system, then you actually understand how to support within your role, within your realm of control, even better for your clients. So take the time, if you're going to serve DTC brands, understand the platforms they use, understand how that kind of interacts with you as an email marketer, how it kind of interacts with the other things that they're doing, understand how their fulfillment, the 3PLs work, understand what kind of stressors your client, the founder of the company, is experiencing, because this allows you to serve them to a higher degree of excellence. Um, I'll go ahead and touch on your questions, Harrison, which I appreciate, man. So, how do you balance keeping existing customers engaged and selling them more products? What are some of the good DTC brands or any brands that you'd recommend for email swipes? What are your thoughts on holiday promos? Okay, cool. So, yeah, let's start with the first one. How do you balance keeping existing customers engaged and selling them more products? So, Harrison's a pro. I know he knows this, but for other people, when you're starting out, whether it's for a list you're managing or your own list, keeping people engaged is pretty simple. Okay. It's understanding them at a deeper level, even more so than they understand themselves. Okay. The way you do this, if we want to get into the nitty gritty, get tactical, it's going to be through market research. Inside that umbrella of market research, it's going to be doing some research online, through Reddit, through socials, through all these different avenues that you have accessibility to through the internet. Some other ways is going to be becoming the customer. Okay, read the books, go shop for the product, do all these different things. Another way is actually communicating with these people over a call, over an email thread, over all these different things, right? And so you want to take those things into consideration when trying to keep people engaged. Something that I will say is that you want to provide that entertainment value, right? Because people are always looking for something to do. It's more prevalent than ever that people doom scroll, right? They're on Instagram, they're scrolling all the time, whatever, and they're looking for distraction. They're looking for some form of escapism. People are going to do it no matter what. That's the day and age we live in. It's going to happen. So what if you were to be their form of escapism? That's what you need to focus on. And you do that by providing entertainment value. It can be through informing them of things. It could be through providing them a good laugh. It could be telling a good story. It doesn't have to be super serious all the time, and it doesn't have to be super silly all the time. So that's how you would, keep existing customers engaged, and then selling them more products the exact same way. Tell stories. Okay, that's a big thing. Is tell stories, provide insights, provide value. If you want to talk about on a grand scope, on like a very long-term thing, we're talking years, many years, then it's by understanding what their next problem is. You're going to sell them more of your offers, right? It's understanding what other variables do they need to be serviced on? What other variables do they need to be solved for? And then solve them through your offering, through your product, whatever it is, and execute that way. So you keep them engaged, you build authentic relationships. There's going to be times where you're executing an email, and you're going to go through these periods sometimes where the emails may not be your best emails compared to other ones that you've written, but they're going to stick with you because you've built an authentic relationship. And I feel like that's where a lot of people fall short, is that they think every email needs to be a home run, and that's the way they keep them. But in reality, you don't need every single email to be a home run. It needs to serve people for sure, but when you build authentic relationships and you do it well, they're going to have, like, there's going to be those periods where, okay, they're going to open your email and be like, okay, cool, I get it, and then get off, right? But because you've cemented yourself in their life, you've served them, you've supported them, you've done whatever it is that you do as a brand, as a company, as a person, they're going to continue to check out what you have. Now, you can't be slacking all the time, obviously. Otherwise, eventually it just gets to a point where, like, okay, I'm done here. But building an authentic relationship does play a massive role here. And it is a real thing that needs to be acknowledged, that a lot of people are not acknowledging. Um, let's see, other question. Bum, bum, bum. What are some of the good DTC brands, or any brands that you'd recommend for email swipes? So in reality, I've never messed around with email swipes. Um, I In fact, in the beginning of my email marketing career, like when I pivoted full time to email marketing, um, there's a lot of things that I dislike. And so what I did is I ended up going against the grain and just like doing things differently, right? So like a lot of, if you're not new here and you've seen my stuff, by the way, if you're here, ask questions, feel free to take advantage of Q&A while you got me here. Um, I've never messed with email swipes that much. What I did was I went against the grain and I kind of just tested different things, right? If you've seen my previous videos, then I'm sure you're well aware of the fact that a lot of brands traditionally they do, like these glorified billboards is what I call them, which is just a digitized billboard of them trying to promote their product and sell their product. And that eventually turns the email marketing channel into a broken, boring advertising channel, is what I like to call it, because it's the truth. Like people start to develop those ad blockers, and anyone that has scrolled on Facebook consistently, like they know what's an ad, they know what's native and what's not. And that's why you want to make your ads super native. And this is a good example that I try to tell people is if you want people to not look at your emails and just immediately archive, because that's what I do for a lot of brands. I archive the emails. I don't even read them because after a few emails, if it's just the same visually like heavy design emails, I don't care. When I'm ready to shop, I'll shop. But if you create a native advertisement, let's put it that way, inside the email channel, what is native is text-based emails, right? And so that is what I primarily focused on from the beginning. That's what I focus on now. And that's what produces the best results in terms of longevity, sales, and building authentic relationships that actually scales the brand. But email swipes, I can't really be someone to speak on that because I'm not really researching other brands and swiping emails or studying other brands. I am at the point now where like I just look at what I'm doing with my clients and testing that and seeing what works and what doesn't work. Um, I've already proven all these things in the beginning with clients, and if they wanted a visually pleasing email, I'd have them make it. I test it against my text-based emails. My text-based emails always outperformed. So never look back. What are your thoughts on holiday promos? I've heard that those promos are just withdrawn sales you'll get later and doesn't really change total revenue in the long term. So good question. Holiday promos. Let's speak in the context of my own email list. I don't necessarily do holiday promos. And to your point, Harrison, like yeah, those promos are quote unquote withdrawn sales that you'll get later. But I don't think they're necessary. I think people are getting the gist of things. I don't think consumers are dumb. I think consumers are very intelligent people and they realize these things and they learn these things. Like if we go back 15 years, like people shopping on e-commerce 10, 15 years ago, they didn't really know about cart abandoned emails. Now people will shop, add to cart, and just wait to get a cart abandoned email with a discount. And so it's similar to that. It's like, okay, well, I'll wait around till Black Friday and get my sales at a discount. It's like it can work for brands. It obviously works, and a lot of people do that. Awesome, Amar. Well, if you have any questions, pop them in the chat and I'll answer them. But yeah, so if you want to be a brand that's like an elevated brand, right? You don't want to be a brand that's diluted to discounts. You don't want those discount druggies. You want people that are going to pay what you believe your products and offerings are worth. And obviously you want your customers to take advantage of deals when you legitimately want to serve them with a very incredible deal, right? Uh, that can be done at any time. And if you're leveraging holiday promos all the time, then that's what they come to expect. And then when you don't do it, it's going to put a damper on your sales. It all depends on kind of how you execute. But I personally, with my own email list, I don't really do that. When I feel like doing a sale on something, I'm very strategic with what kind of deal I'm promoting. And that can be at any time when I personally feel like it. With clients, similar, depending on the client, depending on how we want to execute. But typically, I'm not falling in line with traditional execution just because traditional execution is come to be expected. And, if you do things a little bit differently and you test different things and you get a little bit strategic and creative, these can produce much better results. Uh, let's see what else. How important are visuals and design for DTC emails? I already know he knows the answer to this. They're not important. Visuals and designs for DTC emails, they're not important. And people are gonna, actually, this is one that I have a perfect example. A lot of people push back in the DTC space. They're like, oh, I have a clothing brand. Okay. Clothing needs to be shown. Like, no, it doesn't. If you can have quality copywriting for your emails, you can get people to visualize things so well and yearn for your products. You can create immense desire with the written word for clothing products, for any type of product that you think people need to see. They don't need to see it. They can go see it on the product page. They can go see it when they actually click through that email and land on the website. Have your pictures, have the product photos. That you need that. No one's going to spend, I don't know, $1,000 on a bag if they don't actually see the bag on the website. But in an email, I personally do not believe it is necessary whatsoever. And if you have a clothing brand, or if you're serving a client with a clothing brand or something that has a product that they believe needs to be seen, I implore you, do a text-based email versus a design-based email. Get your own proof of concept. Obviously, you want to ensure the copywriting is effective and it's really good. Don't test it against a shitty text-based email, but yeah, it's definitely worth understanding that this is not necessary. And right now, I'm going to speak to the founders of e-commerce brands. It is so unnecessary if you can replace design-based emails with high-quality text-based emails. High quality meaning solid copywriting that actually, touches on these emotional triggers, because 80% of selling is emotion, right? Where you can build a desire, where you can paint the picture and they can visualize these things themselves and get them to click through. That's going to save you so much more time. Okay. It is not necessary to have these design based emails. You can whip out text based emails. You can increase the frequency of your emails significantly simply by transitioning from design based emails to text based emails, because all you need are the words and you just need a plain text email. That's all you need. So, how important are visuals and designs for DTC emails? My opinion, zero. I work with DTC brands all the time. We don't do anything but text-based emails. If you're a service provider, it saves you a ton of time not having to design. You don't need to work with someone else. You don't need to build a team for that. Master the art of copywriting and then execute that way. Copy and paste your copy from a Google Doc to the email inside of an email platform that you're working in, Klaviyo, or whatever it is the client's using at that time. And that's it. You schedule it, boom, you're done, right? So that's that. All good questions. I'm sure will help a lot of people starting out. And yeah, so let me get back into these different things that I wanted to discuss: the email success habits, slash routines um, of an email marketer. So something that a lot of people stress over is, by the way, I see a couple new people here. If you've got questions, pop them in the chat. More than happy to answer them. Um, let's see. A lot of people get tripped up thinking when they get a client, you got to spend all the time in the world with them on the call. You don't. In fact, I recommend you try to take as close to zero calls as you possibly can, because you, as an email marketer, your number one skill is copywriting. That's what's going to produce the results. I'm telling you straight up right now, it's copywriting. It's not the designs. It's copywriting and good strategy. Okay. You need to spend time writing. You need to spend time thinking, reflecting, being creative, doing research. If you're on a call, or you're taking a call twice a week, once a week, even once a week, I think that's overkill. As an email marketer, that does not need to be done. You're not operating in a marketing channel that is so time sensitive. Even if you did daily emails, you don't even need to be on a call once a week. Okay. You should have your systems dialed in. You should understand what is the objective that we're striving for. What's the KPI we're measuring for, which it's sales, by the way. And then within that, there's a couple of other things, but the main purpose is to generate sales. So you need to develop your copy, deliver your copy, refine the copy, and then execute that copy within the strategy in the email marketing channel. So you want to spend your time as much as possible keeping it to yourself versus being on a call. Yes, have check-in calls, okay? You do not need to have calls that often. In fact, I would argue once a month is enough. And you could even get to the point where, like, I've gotten to the point with clients where every call we have, whenever we do a call that's specific to the service, specific to the deliverables, the fulfillment of the agreed upon service that I provide, our call is 10, 15 minutes business. The rest of the time, it's a casual call. We're talking things that are completely unrelated to business, right? So you can get bogged down by that easily. You don't need a 30-minute call. You don't need an hour-long call. You don't need to be on Zoom all the time. You can have one call, get very clear, very refined, very strategic in execution, and then that's it. You guys can chat all the time through a chat service like Slack or whatever, and then that's it. You deliver. You can operate with Loom. I use Loom, and that saves everyone time, and it actually protects the time. And in my experience with the founders, with the clients that I work with, they appreciate this more than you can imagine because they have a lot of time that needs to be protected and they have a lot of time that needs to be allocated to other things, especially if you're working with a DTC brand. How many different things do they have to juggle, right? They have to juggle if they're using a 3PL, the 3PL. They need to juggle different team members. They need to juggle next, the SKUs that they're developing, the new product lines, the product refinement, development, all these different things. The what's it called? We're just like payment processing, like all these different things, merchant accounts, like that's what they've got to focus on. So if you can save them time by simply giving them an update through Loom when you can, or when you deem necessary, and you just focus on generating the results on your end, they're going to love that, right? People do not need to be on calls for this as often as you think. Next thing is, let's see, have writing days. Block off days where you're writing. You don't want to get, at least for me, what I've noticed is if I write every single day, that can bog me down. And I don't think that's the right way to even go about it. I think you need to block off writing days where the only focus for that day is just writing. So you get into a flow state with writing all the copy that you need to write. Because as a creative, you need to have other time where you're just thinking about stuff. Okay. And there's this, I don't know if you'd call it a joke or like an inside joke, but for creatives, a lot of people that are not creatives, they'll look at creatives and be like, oh, he's not really doing anything, or she's not really doing anything. But in reality, majority, like a high percentage of the time of their work is them thinking, like they're going through things in their brain. The amount of times that I go on walks and I'm just thinking about the emails or thinking about ideas or concepts that I want to write about, it's almost every day, right? So that when it comes time to write, I know exactly what we're doing. When it comes time to strategize, I know exactly what we're going to do, right? But I can't be stuck at a computer at a desk just staring at the screen at a blank document trying to imagine these things all the time. No, you got to have that creative time. And this kind of ties into the next thing I'm about to say is that you have to live more life and you have to be more active and you have to consume more. You have to read more, educate yourself more, watch videos, watch movies, like do all these things that are going to fuel your creativity so that you can leverage that to your advantage in your writing, in your strategies, and your ideas, right? So that's very important. If you're a service provider and you're starting out, you're going to spend most of your time in client acquisition mode, okay? The reason why you want to spend most of your time in client acquisition mode when you're starting out is because you're probably trying to get to a point where this is your full-time thing, right? Where your income is enough for you to quit whatever job you have or to sustain whatever lifestyle you have. So you want to spend majority of your time doing that. Now, depending on where you're at as you start your journey in terms of your skill level, your churn or your client retention is probably not going to be that high. Your churn might be a little bit higher than you'd like when you're starting out. And that could be just due to a skill issue, right? And so you want to spend a lot of time in your client acquisition mode in addition to actually mastering your skill set, because you might get a client and then the next month they drop off, or you might get a client 3 months later, they drop off, and then you're stressed out. Oh my gosh, I need to find more clients. You need to build up your client roster when you're starting out to give you the confidence and the ability to allocate the rest of your time to going hard and mastering your skill set and developing your skill set and educating yourself and refining your strategies, your thinking, your thought processes, all these different things, right? So spend most of your time in client acquisition. Then there's going to be a period, right, where you're going to get to a point where your income is stabilized. You got clients that you're knocking out of the park, like they're clients for a very long time, for life almost. You'll have them for years. At that point, and then if you're charging high enough, at that point you can slow down on the client acquisition, be a little bit more selective, be very strategic with who you work with. But the biggest thing when you're starting out, you want to grow your client roster to be able to grant yourself that freedom to be disciplined in your education and mastering your skill set and developing that and refining that. So it's really important. Let's move a little bit more to like the day to day now. So as I've said before, like as a creative, you need to live more. You don't want to be staring at the screen 12 hours a day, every day. As a creative, you need to fuel yourself with different ideas. You need to fuel yourself with different experiences, different interactions, go out, see things, consume things, and just enjoy life so that you can riff off of those experiences and you can, source from these moments of life that you're living or moments of life that you observe from other people, right? And then just take a bunch of breaks. Like take breaks. You do not need to be at the computer. Like I'm not at my desk staring at my screen for 12 hours a day. If I did that, I would be providing the worst service for my clients. Okay. And if you're thinking like, oh, I need to be working all the time to get the best results for my clients, that's actually a disservice to your clients because you are not going to be operating at your best. If you want to work with high level clients and you want to get paid very well, you want to get paid those multi 4-figure retainers, and you want to get performance bonuses, you want to get rev shares, and you want to work with clients that are doing 20, 30, 50K, 100K to $250,000 a month and get a piece of that every month, you have to take breaks. You're a creative, okay? You're not going to push the boundaries by following the same plan every single day by staring at the screen at your Google Doc, writing or coming up with strategies. You have to live more. You have to have different experiences. Otherwise, you're going to operate within the same little box that you've been operating in, and that is not going to fuel your ability to push the boundaries and test different things that breaks thresholds and destroys glass ceilings for your clients' growth. Okay, it's very important to understand that. I don't think a lot of people talk about that. They think, okay, yeah, buckle down, be disciplined, execute all the time. But if you're doing that, eventually you're going to get to a point where you're going to work with the same type of client every time, and you're never going to break beyond that threshold because you're not breaking beyond your own thresholds to be able to help grow them with your newfound creativity or pushing the envelope and things, right? And I mentioned this before, but you're going to spend most of your time thinking. As a writer, as an email marketer, like most of the time you're thinking. You're just thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking. You're taking notes on your phone if you're out and about. If you've got ideas at nighttime, you come write in your journal, whatever. Like I've got a couple of big journals that when I have ideas, I write them down so that I can clear my mind, and then I revisit them the next day and handle those things. So that's pretty important, is that you've got to understand most of your time is spent thinking and reflecting. And that's why I always encourage people, you need to reflect, because this is where some of your greatest ideas and originality can come from. Because if you're just doing the same thing, same repetitive task day in and day out, you're not going to generate the best results, right? So that's good. That's very important. Last thing I'll mention before I close off, and by the way, if you guys have questions, pop them in the chat. More than happy to answer them. I'll kind of wait a few minutes after I say this last thing to give anyone that's here the time to take advantage of me while I'm here and ask whatever questions you want. But it's really important that you strategically set time throughout your journey of becoming an email marketer, operating as an email marketer, to stress test yourself. And when I say stress test yourself, I mean put yourself in situations of adversity that you can see and you can assess where you're at and what you're legitimately capable of, right? So, and this goes for a bunch of different things within the realm of your execution. So, one is how many clients can you handle? Stress test yourself. Go and try to sign as many clients as possible. Obviously, fulfilling on your service and executing for them, and see where do you break? Where do you crumble? Because you're going to. It could be at 10 clients, it could be at 20 clients, it could be at 30 clients. Figure that out. And this is actually going to be worth its weight in gold because a lot of people are not going to talk about this. Listen, everyone thinks, oh, I want to make 100,000 a month. Cool. Everyone thinks they need to go sign a bunch of clients. Everyone thinks that's the game plan, right? Oh, if I can get 10 clients paying me $10,000 a month. Here's the deal. You might not be the person that can handle 10 clients. You just might not be. You might not like it. You might get to a point where it's like, oh, I'm in constant communication with 10 different people, worrying about 10 different brands that I need to handle. It's like, you just might not be that person. So then, how are you going to know that if you never stress test yourself well enough to understand whether that's something that you're capable of or not? And obviously, you can develop into this type of person, but you might realize, like, I don't want to work with 10 people. Maybe I just want to work with a solid 3 to 5 people, have bigger retainers, but also get real, rev shares, real good performance bonuses that give me a piece of what I help them grow. So this actually dictates what kind of clients you're going to go after. If you want to make 100,000 and you get paid 10,000 from each client, and you want to live it like really chill, maybe you go to brands that they're happy at $50,000 a month. You're generating solid sales within the email marketing channel, and then you take a lower retainer, or you take a decent retainer and performance, and then boom, you got your 10 clients making 100 grand a month. Or you can just focus on a core 2 to 3 clients that you're going to scale to $250,000 a month, $1 million a month, and you get a piece of that and you maintain that for a long time. And so now you're only focused on 2 to 3 things, and you might be that kind of person. So stress test yourself with that with clients. Stress test yourself with actual output, with writing, right? Figure out how often can I write and how effective is my writing depending on that frequency in which I write. It's very important that you understand this about yourself, because then you'll realize, okay, well, maybe this month, I'm not traveling that much. I'm gonna lock in. Like, maybe you live in a place that it's not really great to be going outside because it's just super cold all the time. Maybe it's snowing all the time. It's like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna lock in for this month, right? So then maybe you're like, okay, let me go get 10 new projects. Can you handle that? Can you handle the output of those 10 new projects? If you can, go ahead and do it. Lock in, get paid, enjoy the process. If not, then you're going to understand, like, okay, well, no, I can't. My output for writing is not that high, so I'm just going to focus uh, on just generating, a few little projects here and handling that, just being strategic. So that's pretty much the gist of it. It's kind of what I wanted to just share with you here today around email success habits / routines. And obviously, you got to take care of yourself, your body, get good sleep. But these are the core things I wanted to discuss today. And if you have any questions, I'll leave the floor open for a couple of minutes here. Pop in any questions. If not, then I'm going to call it. I'll wait 20 seconds because no one's on right now. But let's see. Hopefully you got value out of this. If you did, like the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed. And leave a comment. Leave a comment with what you found to be the most valuable thing. I'll reply to your comment. If you have questions, drop them in the comments as well. I'm more than happy to answer them there. But let's see. All right. I'm going to end it here. Unless you've got questions, I'm going to end it here. Going once, going twice. We can just chill here. I'll stare at you like a little person icon that you're up there in my left corner. All right. Ending it here. See you.